Good morning, everyone. Good morning to everybody on the line. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the UK.
Exactly, and good morning, Etienne, that I can say good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good afternoon.
Welcome. Great, thanks. So welcome everybody on the line. We see that we are already reaching a lot of people there. It's 9:30. We'll wait 30 seconds to 1 minute so that everybody can have the time to connect. We know it's not always easy with all these different platforms from one webinar to another. So in a few seconds / a minute, we'll be able to start. So again, thanks everyone for joining. We're already a great crowd on the line. I appreciate. So we have Andrew on the other side of the ocean, so in the UK. And we have Etienne and myself, that is that we are at the Robotique HQ in Canada, in Quebec. So that's why there's this little difference of morning and afternoon. Great, so without any waiting, I think it's 9:30, 9:31, so let's start. So welcome everyone again. So welcome to our next automation talk. So we are talking today about, we want you to discover how the dairy manufacturer Ornua became pioneers in Cobot palletizing. I think it's interesting, guys, to let the people know why we talk about pioneers is because it was the first unit of our latest family product of the family that deployed the P20, so the highest payload palletizing solution that we have that lifts up to 20 kilograms. So great work with this team. So before we start, I already have a question. So maybe somebody that has some troubles. Good afternoon from Europe. So yes, let's do like Mario Briceño. Thank you, Mario. Where are you joining us from? So if you want to test the question section, tell us a little hi and from where you are joining us this afternoon or this morning, whether you're on in Americas, in Asia, or in Europe. So thanks, Mario. So everyone, if you want to write down, I'm here from Quebec and Andrew from England. So we're ready to start. Good afternoon from Portugal, from Richmond, Virginia. Peter, thanks. Welcome. Bonjour de Gaspé, Eric. Bonjour, merci de vous joindre à nous. Great. So great crowd again this morning. Thanks for being there. So without any wait, let's start. So as I said, I have the pleasure to be well circled today. So I'm with Etienne Sanson, who's our application director here at Robotique. Hello, Etienne.
Hello, Willie. Hello, everyone.
Great, and we have the pleasure to have with us on the line Andrew Mason, who's the automation sales manager at RAR UK, our partner in the UK. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, Ellie. Hello, everybody.
Thank you for being there, Andrew, too. So throughout this great partnership, we did this. We had this great collaboration along the way with Universal Robot to deploy this first unit of the P20 and the UR20 in Europe. So quick agenda. So we won't make you wait too much for the people on the line. So we'll start right away with the Ornua palletizing story. We'll go right after. So you'll have all the glimpse of the project with the video. Then after, you'll get more details about it, discussions with Andrew and Etienne about the challenges versus what were the challenges of Ornua and what was the solution deployed. We'll bring you through the journey of the lean robotics. This is the methodology that Robotique is focusing in, that has been led by our CEO, Samuel Bouchard. So the design, integrate, and operate phases of the project. How you can start your project and start palletizing manually. And finally, at the end, you can write your question throughout the session on the chat. Sometime I might bring some questions during the presentation, but mainly at the end of the session, you'll have the chance to ask all your questions. So you're pretty lucky today. I have to say it's a live session. Nowadays, a lot of webinars are not live, so the guys were brave enough to join me this morning in a live session. So bear with us if we have some little delays or stuff that happens, but we're happy to be there, everyone, with you live. So without any wait, before presenting the project, I want to present you a bit more about RER UK, who's our partner in the UK, as I said. So right away, when the Universal Robot deployed the collaborative robot, RER UK saw the need for the companies and manufacturer in the UK. So they were one of the first in the world to resell the Universal robots, the collaborative robots, and it was the first one also in the UK. And they've been expert partner at Robotique since 2015, if I'm correct, and now expert partner in Palletizing since it's more than 6 years. So, Andrew, can you tell us a bit more about what's the main source of RER UK and other services that you offer?
Okay, yes, we offer a range of automation applications. We're a distributor for a number of suppliers, but Universal Robots and Robotique are our prime suppliers. So we offer traditional industrial robots from Shibara, or formerly Toshiba. We offer a range of traditional automation such as Cartesian systems through a company in Germany. We also offer the mobile robots from Mir, and then we offer feeding systems which are associated with robotics and automation. I say we're very prime with the Universal Robots and Robotique.
Yeah, we do appreciate the relationship here, and I think Etienne does too in his project. So a lot of people also joining on the line, so thanks again. So thank you, Andrew, for giving this quick overview. So before going on the talking about the project, so I'd like to know, we have a little poll question. So we want to hear on the line, do we have people that are used to automation or not used to automation? So let us know. So who within you, are you still doing manual palletizing internally? So also for the sake of just to understand that palletizing in the UK, we use the S for palletizing, and which is pretty different for the rest of the world, but there's not a typo here. That's the difference a little bit in between. So we wait for your replies. Let's reach at least 50% of the people on the line that reply. So are you doing manual palletizing in your production lines, or you are oh, I said not yet, but no, if you're not doing manual palletizing, means that you're already automating, or if you're not doing it, right? So thank you for your reply. So I see that half of the people is on the line is doing still manual palletizing. Others might not be doing palletizing or might be already automating. So thanks for your reply. So let's go back right in to the presentation. So Ornua, let's make sure that I present the line. So tell us a bit more, right before the next slide is the video, the case study. Andrew, tell us a bit more about Ornua and what they do, who they are, and what are they producing.
Okay, they're an Irish-based dairy product manufacturer. They have some of the well-known brands we see in the UK. I think Kerrygold is probably the one that I recognise most even as a child. But in this application, they're supplying ingredients to the food industry, so it's not an end product as such. So when I first started talking to Jack, who's my contact there, Jack Cotton, they were interested in palletizing. They felt it was an area where they could get some automation into the company relatively simply. But when we looked at the application, we realised that we needed a UR20. The UR10 didn't have sufficient payload, and so we went down the route with the UR20 with a PE20.
Great, and we see that it's still we see it's a company based in the UK, that home of Irish dairy, but you might have heard about Ornua also in some local territories. I think that now Ornua is has a pretty worldwide coverage, right, Andrew?
Yeah, they're originally from Ireland, but they've got other sites in the UK, I believe in Europe, and I think in the US as well, there are some sites.
Great. But I think it's interesting here to see that we are working with a small team. So whether you are a small enterprise, a small medium enterprise, or a bigger company, automation is accessible both in terms of knowledge, but also in the accessibility of the products.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Great. So without any further wait, let's dive in and we'll present you about the project in action. So I'm just going to do a little switch to make sure that you have a great video presented. So guys, you make me.
Ornua is a dairy cooperative which specialises in the marketing and sales of dairy products. Our culture is founded on innovation and collaboration, and we work with our customer partners to realise their ambitions. We decided to look at automation because we recognise the potential of new technologies in increasing efficiency and also helping us develop talent and deploy human resources in the most effective areas on site. We looked at palletizing as the first area to explore automation due to the number of human resources needed. If we can automate that task, then those resources can be used elsewhere. There's a health and safety aspect as well.
Ornua were looking for end-of-line palletizing to free up some labour. The payloads they were looking for was the 12-kilogram box product, a 6-kilogram box product, and then the cheese, which is a 10-kilogram product. Manually loading and unloading product leads to potential repetitive strain injuries. There's lots of reaching, so you've got to get down low, you've got to get up high to palletize manually.
It's an application where it's quite tough to hire people because it's a repetitive task, low skill. The turnover for the employee is quite high, and it can be a real challenge. For most of our customers, they will automate the palletizing, and the people that they free up will be assigned to a higher value task.
The challenges with palletizing the dairy products in the film are the film could become quite slippery, and compared to doing cardboard boxes, which is quite a flat surface and uniformed, the dairy products can come in different shapes and forms. When we were looking to find a solution, we searched for a few suppliers, but they didn't offer the collaborative robot. It was more of a robotic palletizing cell, which means the human interaction would have been completely guarded off. It's important to have the option of people to be able to work around the Cobot due to the nature of the product. We pull out on pallets quite regularly. We got in contact with RAI UK and Robotique, which helped us find a solution.
What we do is basically we build a solution all based on the universal robot. The robot is a tool that can be used for any kind of application, but we develop a software level that's dedicated for palletizing.
When I found out about the UR20, we were quite excited due to its capability of lifting up to 20 kg. It also is not limited on the reach of the arm, which means it can stack higher and further away. The task that the Cobot is performing is a simple pick and place. So the operators would feed the dairy products or the boxed dairy products into the conveyor. The Cobot will then pick up and put onto a pallet in a correct format.
Having a solution like we have, it means a visual setup. So you don't need to program lines of codes. You will just open the palletizing interface, enter your new box dimension and weight and the pattern, and then you just press start and the robot will do everything automatically.
The process of working with Universal Robots, RAI UK and Robotique has been quite smooth. We've had regular updates throughout the process. They've done a lot of trialing and fed back at every point.
The feedback of customers using Universal Robots is that they're user-friendly. We have many customers who are repeat customers. They buy multiples.
Very satisfying to see the system now deployed and up and running. I'm hoping after the install of this Cobot that the business will be a lot more open to adding more automation on the ingredients and food sites.
Repetitive and dull tasks just need to be automated. That need won't go away, it will keep on increasing. So for the future of automation is bright.
It's very exciting to see the UR20 running. The response here has been excellent. there was a small ripple of applause when we completed the first pallet, so which was nice.
Thanks for this amazing video. Oh, I won't start it again. I should make sure that I'm unmuted. Okay, I'm unmuted. Everybody's unmuted. Okay, great. Great. Thanks for this great video. Looking good, guys, with this little blue caps both on the floor and in the video. You must be really proud of that project too, also with a great collaboration with Ornua.
Yes, it's been good to work with them, and yeah, and also our partners. We work with a conveyor company, Denny Brothers, who helped us with the in-feed side.
Yeah, I think I hope you guys, it brought you some questions or valuable insights. So feel free again to write us in the chat if you have any question regarding the video. So Etienne, coming back to you, maybe let's talk about the people on the line. So where are we in the market in terms of collaborative robot and palletizing? So about the solutions.
Yeah, so I think right now the core of what we do is really with the food and beverage. So that's what we're looking at today with this case study with the dairy industry. But it's not the only industry. So in our audience, I guess we will have more than that. I think there's a natural fit for any kind of industry that will need flexibility in terms of SKU. So that's quite common in food and beverage, but also consumer goods. So any kind of industry where the package of the project change for each season, for example. So we saw a lot of good fit with the candies and chocolate manufacturers that they have to change for Halloween to Christmas to Easter to whatever. So it induces a lot of stress on the production line. They need to change. Then when you have to tackle those change, you need flexible equipment. And that's something that Cobots in general we provide and that we focus on. Also, any kind of industry with tight environment, it's really a good fit, and that's quite common in food and beverage, consumer goods, in the pharma. So they are not industry that were taught to be, when they build their line, they were not thinking about massive industrial automation. So usually it's human scale, and it's not a good fit for an industrial robot to deploy. There's no room for it. That's where we have a really good fit. So we see this in food and beverage, but in more, so we have a lot of application in the consumer good in general, pharma industry, for example, and then from small to very small organization to very large global organizations, you have pretty much everything in the mix.
Great.
So yeah,
we were seeing here, so already more than 350 plus solutions deployed worldwide. So pretty impressive numbers, considering that the solution haven't been out in the market for so long. We see a lot of interesting different ranges of companies here, like very small SMEs to like the Joy-Con in the US, and Kellogg's, let's say in Spain, Ferrero, and here also, and maybe question for Andrew. So what is it something that you see also in the UK, these three markets that are prevalent in looking for the collaborative palletizing solution, and what type of industry you see also in your market?
Yes, the majority of ours have been in the food industry mainly, and that's not just for human food, it's pet food as well. We also have an application in consumer goods, so one of the companies listed there. So they're the main. We followed your lead really. We've looked at the type of companies who you're working with and finding exactly the same. And also the range, it can be a small company, maybe 50 employees or so, right through to the bigger companies, the multinationals.
Great, yeah. I think you also know really well the cosmetics industry, but from cosmetics to the little bakery, I think the great project you deployed recently at a small bakery in the UK, right? Yes.
The smallest one company is a bakery, and then there's others who are multinationals.
Great, thanks for sharing that with the people on the line. So what would you say? What are the customers' main challenges toward this manual palletizing? So what Ornua was looking to solve as their main challenges? So maybe a question could be for Andrew here.
That's for me. I was just checking.
Yeah.
Particularly with Ornua, it was there were challenges in their application because of gripping was the problem. It's I think Jack mentions it in the video that the shape is not always consistent, and there's condensation, so it's a bit of a wet, slippery application. So gripping was the big problem. Also, we're key to get the product with all palletizing. It's key to get the product in the right place for picking. So that's where the conveying comes in. It's important. Obviously, they were keen to ergonomics to avoid manual lifting. And I think Jack also mentioned they were very keen to be able to assign their employees to other roles where higher value tasks and probably a nicer job, really. That's the key.
So 3 main elements. So we have the security, also satisfaction of the employee, although they have a very good retention of employees at Ornua. So they see that the people love to work there, but still they would like to offer them a better job and assign them to these higher value tasks, as you said. And labor shortages, I don't think they're not saved or the exception to the rule of many other manufacturers.
That's correct. We do see labour shortages in UK, but I think Etienne mentioned earlier about the flexibility, the ability to add in extra SKUs relatively quickly is an important factor.
So I think it's interesting what Jack was mentioning here. So he said we decided to look at automation because we recognize the potential of new technologies in increasing efficiency, sorry for that, and also helping us develop talent and deploy human resources in the most effective areas on site. So simply confirming what was their need to go through automation. And we see a lot of people say, okay, we have so many potential elements in our production floor where we could automate. Why people tend to choose right away the palletizing, you would say? Maybe Etienne, what would you say about that?
There's 2 aspects, I think. One, it's a job that's a bit tough, so we tackled it. The population is aging. It's not it can be physically just challenging. With that example, lifting 12 kg boxes all day long is probably not the job you want if you're 60 years old. Maybe at 25 you can do it, but then at some point it's just tough. So that's good reason to automate it. But then there's also a natural fit. It's easy to automate. I think there's a standard. So if you look across all of the factory floor and those food or consumer good factory, usually if you go upstream, they have something very specific to what they do. So in that case, they have big giant balls mixing milk to do cheese and stuff like that. So that's probably upper stream is really tough to automate. It's not standard. If you go downstream to the pallet, there is a standard. The pallet is standard. So there is UK size, European size, Australian size, or whatever, but at least there are some standards. So a pallet is already defined by the industry. So we always know what the pallet is. So it's easier to automate for a company like us, Robotic, building a solution like that is easier than other application. And for the end user, there's always some little things that change that we need to adapt to, but there's always like something that comes back. It's always downstream. It's always in similar environments. It's always on pallet. It's always either cardboard or plastic or whatever, but it's a semi-rigid thing that you place on a pallet, and that's probably the easiest application to automate. If you would go upstream, then you need a little bit more skill to do the packaging, to do the wrapping, to do those kind of applications. They are tougher to automate.
Exactly. So it's really like replicating the manual process here. So maybe for the people on the line, if you don't know where to start, maybe end of line palletizing can be a first step, because and also collaborative robot can allow you not to change your equipment, but to work with what you currently have. So we'll bring you to the journey, through the journey of the lean robotics methodology, as we said. So we really focus here on the people, the productivity, and the adaptability, and that's the beauty of it, of this type of solution. And we go usually through the 3 phases, as we said. So we'll go over the design, integrate, and operate phase. So let's go over the design phase. So it may be before starting, so I'll go over this first question with you guys. So how do customers evaluate their palletizing project with Cobot? So how we first start? So I'm just confirming here where we, this is the quote, we've talked about it already. So why they look at palletizing first, where they wanted to work with the resources that could be used elsewhere, maybe either manage the collaborative robot or manage other lines. So maybe Andrew here, what can we say? Can you win with automation? So how can you, when sometimes you might have a dilemma and you want to choose between industrial robot or collaborative robot, is it something that these elements that you face with your customer when they are taking the decision? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I think you can win and with both, because you've got productivity, but you don't lose productivity because we've got the flexibility as well. So you might get more on a standard application, you might get more speed, but really we just need to match the productivity of the line. With the robotic solution, we typically can get 10 picks per minute, and then we can also multi-pick as well, so if we need faster than that. So, but I think the flexibility is key. The fact we could bring in new applications or new SKUs as and when. I think the palletizer does offer a big impact reasonably quickly, and there is a low risk because the manual task could still be there if required. If you had a particularly awkward product to pick, you can still get to the line to manually work that odd one. And yes, it's automation replaces the manual labor and utilizes their skills elsewhere. So yeah,
Exactly.
you can
Sorry,
win.
Andrew.
Was the answer? Yeah.
So you can win. When your parents ask you, when they tell you at Christmas, no, you cannot have it all. But maybe with collaborative robot, that's something that yes, you can win in many points here.
Yes.
So you don't have to. You can have the flexibility on the floor, being able to own. Etienne, I know you were mentioning, or maybe it's you, Andrew, when we were discussing aside that your previous project last week. How many SKUs they had again?
250. We're fortunate, and the boxes are very similar to each other, but the SKUs are totally different, and the weights change a bit. So we've got good flexibility there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And does the pallet pattern change with all the different SKUs usually, or it's always the same?
In that particular application, we've got a non-disclosure agreement, so we haven't publicised that one, but they've got a range of patterns, but most of the SKUs fit into 1 or 2 patterns really.
Great. So, and let's say, Etienne, you were talking about Christmas, Halloween. We were a bit in the team coming into Halloween. What is the main advantage for customer when there's this sudden change of SKUs? Or do they need to work with the external engineering team, or they can own it internally?
It could be any of these. So that's a nice thing with the solution we have. It's easy enough that pretty much anyone can get autonomous and operate it, teach new SKU, teach new patterns, change the parameters to put it at maximum speed to behave like an industrial robot or to be in collaborative mode. That our customers can do that, but some of them, by culture reason, corporate reason, they don't want to touch anything, and then they work with external integrators who do that for them. Sometimes they work with us. So with Ornua, that's what we did. So Robotic and RR UK were working together to provide the integration to Ornua. So there's anything is pretty much possible. So there's a whole, I would say, a whole range of possibilities. We encourage our customers to be autonomous. Definitely, that's our favorite way, so that they can. I personally think it's more sustainable in the long term for companies, but then I understand that some companies it doesn't fit the way they are. I would say structured, and then they want us to do every single thing. They don't want to touch the equipment. That can also be a possibility, and that's fine.
Great, great. I appreciate so being on their own, but not alone, as we say sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think it was interesting to have this quote from Jack here. So he mentioned that it's important to have the option of people to be able to work around the Cobot due to the nature of the product. So they need to move pallets quite frequently. So when we mention about automation labor versus manual labor, sometimes we think that the people won't be able to keep working around the Cobot. So I think, Andrew, that was one of the main elements why they were looking for collaborative robot, isn't it?
Yes, with this application, we've fenced 3 sides because we're running 12 kilograms at a reasonable speed. So we felt for safety reasons it's not a true collaborative application. But then they also need easy access to be able to change pallets. So with the robotique solution, you can see on that slide there's the yellow bar is a light curtain. So we have a light curtain at the front of the open side. And with the robotique solution, there's a very easy reset button. So if you break the light curtain to take the pallet out, you just take it out, and once you're free, you press the reset button, and then the robot carries on. It works both left and right, so you don't have to be waiting for one pallet to complete. It will start working on the other side, and then when you're ready to take the pallet out, let's say you just break the curtain or hit the pause button, take the pallet out, put a new pallet in, and then press reset.
Great, and sometimes we hear about scanners. Were there any security scanners in this case, or only the light curtains?
On this one, we used light curtain, but other applications we have a scanner. They do the same function. There are reasons for choosing one or the other. Sometimes customer led, sometimes we advise as well. Good, great, and thanks a lot for that, Andrew. Very interesting photo to see, as we said, the people working around the Cobot. So, so as we design, we won't go over all that slide, but just to give you an idea of really our way to proceed. And sometimes people really focus on the final cell design. So Etienne, maybe give us some thoughts about how do we go from manual process and in this design phase to the automated process?
Yeah, well, the typical thing we start with, so before any orders coming in, we start with really what I call the concept phase. So at the concept, we'll be looking basically at what we need to automate, so the manual process, what's the KPI of the customer. So usually they will give us a cycle time, so we need to achieve 8 box per minute, something like this. Sometimes it's also about the accuracy that they want to reach on the pallet, how tight they want it to be. So these kind of things we need to look at them, and then we come up with basically the concept phase. So the concept phase will be looking at the high level idea. So are we going for a collaborative application or not? So we touched it, but it's something important. The solution we have, sometimes it's confusing for our customers, so I think it's important to mention it, but it's both an industrial robot and a collaborative robot. So the same hardware, we can apply parameters to get it into a collaborative mode, so it will move a bit slower. It would be gentle, I would say, so we can reach, I don't know, 5-6 bucks a minute, pick a minute with that. But the same hardware without any cost, we can just put it to maximum speed acceleration, and then we would reach 12-13 pick per minute, and then it behaves like an industrial robot. So that's the kind of thing we want to tackle at the concept phase, because of course, it will change what we need to deliver to the customer. So in the case of Ornua over there, we decided to go to the maximum parameters, so to have most out of the robot. Then we had the three side fence and a light curtain. So all of that is done at the design phase. And the nice thing with our standard solution is that the design phase is really short. So if you would go out and place an order to an integrator that start from the white page, basically, the design can last a couple of months While in our case, there is a solution that we can deploy pretty much in all scenarios we've seen. So the design phase is usually really fast because for us, it's just modules. So you want this and that, we put it together and the solution is there. So we're not building from scratch. And yeah, now just showing the simulation tool, which is also a very nice tool that we use in the design phase. It's accessible, it's public, accessible on our website, where you can configure your application. You input the box you would have, the conveyor you would have, the pattern you desire, and then you would get simulation results in a couple of minutes. It's also nice to try this thing because it's actually very similar to the interface you have on the teach pendant, so on the HMI. So that what we see right now with the pattern is exactly what you would get on the robot, and it is how you would teach the robot how to do your palletizing pattern. And with that, then you can see if it's suitable for you, both in terms of footprint, in terms of performance. So that's everything we do at the design phase. It's swift and easy. So it's definitely an important part of a project. Yeah.
Good. Thanks a lot, Etienne. I appreciate it. And you mentioned about that it's pretty fast to deploy the solution. So we talk a lot about standardizing with easy scalability. And what do we mean here, especially? Or maybe it was Andrew that would add something.
I could start, but first of all, I think with Ornua, it's a good example that it's the first Cobot project throughout the whole corporation. So it's first at that factory, but also through all of their factories. So they are learning with the project that they can now standardize on it, and they can, of course, deploy to other factories within the same factory for palletizing that we have today, but also for other applications. So it's really cool to start with this technology because there is a learning curve. So whatever technology would add up, there is always a learning curve. So they will have this learning curve. It's an easy one, at least with this, but then they can replicate to many other sites or many other applications. So they can grow in both directions. While with a custom made solution, then sometimes it's not available in the other sites. So Ornua, they have their factory in England that we work with, but for example, they have, I think, one in Wisconsin. They have one in Spain. They have, I lost track a bit. They have many elsewhere. So having a standard solution means it will be available everywhere in those factories for the different sites they have.
Indeed, and we have a picture here of this is an example with Cascade Coffee, a coffee manufacturer that we have in the west coast of California. So I think that they are at their 6th automated line, and we have another great customer that you can find the case study online, Tidy Products. They just keep ordering more and more palletizing line. I think that within 1 year now, they just ordered their 8th palletizing solution that they can deploy easily even by themselves, just because that they are able to scale the solution since they repeat the standard solution they have. And maybe Andrew here, so what about the customer, or what has been chosen here? We'll go over the solution. So you have these 3 elements that people can choose in between the height or payload, what fits best for Ornua.
Yes, so when we first started talking, I think it was December 22, so nearly a year ago. We were originally looking at the UR10, but we knew the payload was the 12 kilogram, so we were on the beyond the limits of the UR10. So then with all applications, we look at height. So we've got a range here. We've got the PE series, which is a fixed pedestal unit. So that gives us heights up to, it depends on the box size, but typically 1.5, 1.6 meters with a UR10. If we then have the 7th axis version, which is the AX version, this gives us height capacity is 2.75 meters, that is. And then with Ornua, the option, because we were going both higher payload and we needed the reach of a higher solution, the UR20 PE20 solution came. It was a good fit. In fact, it was the only fit we offered. So that's why, partly with the delay from the first contact through to the ultimate deployment, because the UR20 was not really available until this summer.
Okay, great. And maybe I don't want to spend too much time here. I see the time is running, but we're having in light gray here a 2024 release. What can we expect maybe, or what we should expect in the coming months? The words on that.
That graph is pretty obvious for anyone who understood it. So we'll be working at a solution to provide higher pallets with higher payload. That will be upcoming next year. So we're always looking at expanding the application coverage we have with our projects. Great.
And we were talking about the solution that was selected a little bit. I won't go too much, but can you present real quick what are the three members of our palletizing products?
Yeah, sure. So on the left, you have the first one we launched, the AX10, we call it, so the AX series with the UR10. So this one was really meant to be a flexible tool that could do anything at that time. So because at that time there was only the UR10 on the market. So it's basically the UR10 mounted on a 7-axis going up and down. So that's why we can reach those high pallets. Then after that, we developed the P series. So it's with the P's for the pedestal. So it's with an adjustable pedestal. So we keep some of the flexibility. So the pedestal can be adjusted depending on the pallet height you want. But then we simplify a lot the component. And of course, simplifying component means lower cost. So that's was nice for our customers. If they don't need high pallets, probably a good fit. And then we have the latest one, the PE series with the UR20. So we would call it the P20. So it's also with a pedestal, not with a 7-axis. And basically with the high reach that Andrew mentioned on the UR20, we can do much higher pallets if you compare with the P10 and the P20. And of course, there's the payload that comes with it.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So again, coming back then to Andrew, for what you've selected for Ornua was this P20. So can you tell us a bit more about what are the main benefits of the new P20 solution?
With the UR10, P10 or AX, you can have a bit of limitation on reach. So with the introduction of the UR20, that takes away that limitation. Certainly for sometimes we need to pick layer cards, for example, or drag sheets in, and then if that's the case, you've got to be able to get to them. So it's got to be within the range of the robot. So it's that much easier with a 20, and also the payload. Many customers wanted more and say, they wanted 12 kilograms or more, and the UR20 opens up that opportunity. So they're the key factors, really.
Great, and I think some slight elements to mention. And then you've discussed about a project that can be deployed sometimes in weeks. We'll talk about it a little bit later, and the setup can be done really quickly. So just a quick blurry picture of what we can see. You've seen it in the video, but this was the P20 that was developed there. I also wanted to share some more picture about the Cascade Coffee project in the US. So very interesting to see here again the scalability that we can reach with this palletizing solution. We see the various lines. So we like to talk about also some elements are going deeper in the project. So what would you say were the main challenges in terms of the solution? So Andrew, in the video, Jack mentions that challenges with film compared to cardboard, a film of the cheese compared to cardboard boxes, this flat surface that they said in the dairy industry. So I don't know if we have other people in the dairy industry on the line. So there are different shapes and different forms that will be presented to the palletizer. And here they also needed some human interaction. So we've prepared this kind of slide to present to the people what were the main challenges here. Andrew, could you give us some more details about it?
Okay, well, the cardboard boxes are pretty standard, so we don't have a problem with shape there, or generally environmental because they're generally hopefully dry. I suppose you do get problems with if product's not sealed properly. So you pick a box and it opens. So that's quite key. But with this application, as you see on the right hand side there, the cheese is wrapped in film. We mentioned earlier, it's not the easiest product to pick. If it's misshaped, these ones are very square and flat, but some are less consistent. They're more rounded. That's a challenge for the gripper. Also, if they've got condensation on, they're slippery and wet. That's a challenge for the gripper. In fact, we're still doing some enhancements with this application because the gripping was probably the biggest challenge here. We were able to feed the product in through the conveyor so we could get good position, but picking proved a little bit of a challenge. And I say we're still developing a little bit on this one.
Mm-hmm. So it really depends.
We changed good speed. Sorry, I've just saw speed there. We did speed test and we were picking I think excess of 10 a minute. So we had to keep up with their production rates, which was key, obviously. Sorry, you carry on.
No, that was exactly what I was about to say, like that being able to match the manual process that was going upstream there. So, we know we have different environmental conditions, sometimes different shapes. So very interesting to hear about that. Thanks, Andrew. I see again the time. I want to make sure that we fit in the 1 hour and we have time for your questions. But so going into the integrate phase, Etienne, can you tell us what can look like a typical installation of the palletizing turkey solution?
Yep. So I talked earlier about the concept phase. That's basically before the order. So usually a couple of weeks to align on that, and then this timeline would start when we confirm the project. So we receive an order. So we would at this point we would what we would call it internally finalize the design. So we always have some engineering left to do. And in parallel, we prepare for what we call the FAT. Most of our customers are familiar with that, the factory acceptance test. That's something we do in our lab. And basically the idea of that is to integrate all of the project, assemble everything and test the customer parts. We're confident in our project, but we still believe that this is a good idea to do it, mitigate risk. And the previous slide, you were talking about the challenge. It's really common that even for cardboard that is mostly standard and easy, like Andrew said, sometimes the customer they don't fully, I would say, master what's upstream, and then the size of those cardboard will change. So they tell us it's 300 millimeters, but then in reality there's always a bit of deviation. So we do FAT to find those irregularities and adapt to them so that when we go on site, everything is running smoothly. So typically after a month, we're executing the FAT, then we ship everything to our customers. We go on site to install. Typical installation is 2 days, a day to set up, a day to fine tune, and then we usually do a day for training so that we're basically handing off teaching the end user how to do new SKUs, how to operate safely, and all of that. So that's and this swift installation, because if you compare to the industry, especially with industrial robot, this is really fast. I think that comes from two sides. One, it's the project. It's a standard project. It's flexible. It's easy to operate. The other one is the process that we have with the FAT to mitigate risk. So they are coming together for that.
Yes, and also when people really care a lot about when, for example, if you want to do this factory acceptance test, you could have to stop the production line for many days. In that case, you're ready. So when we decide, okay, we stop the production line, we don't have to stop for a longer period. We can just do it, as we said, impressively in 1 day. Second day is pre-production and tuning.
Yeah, exactly. And then we adapt to the reality of each project. Some of them are very low risk because they have nothing else than a single rigid cardboard average size. So what we call the FAT in that fact would be just maybe an hour of testing, and then we're fine and we can go and install. Some of them are more exotic, and then we would spend a week of testing. That's what we did with Ornua. So they shipped us those cheese block samples or in our office, and we had a lot of learnings, and we had to do some iterations to improve our gripping over that. It was a challenge, but it's a challenge that we did in our office before deploying.
Great, so great offer there, and I guess a great tasting of the cheese afterwards, I hope. So great, so we're in that case, after, as Etienne said, then the third step will be to operate, the fine tuning, the continuous improvement. I think it's interesting since now we were still in the pre-production phase with Ornua, but interesting quote here from Jack. He said, our culture is founded on innovation and collaboration, and we work together with our customer partners to realize their ambitions. So I think it's great to have like partners like RRUK Robotique that allows you to reach this vision as a company. I don't know if you wanted to add maybe something, Andrew or Etienne, and before going on how people can start their project.
My real comment I was going to add is that with the Robotique solution, it's a single solution. The universal robot comes from Universal Robot, but it's designed specifically for the Robotique Palletizer. Is designed specifically for the Universal Robot, and so being dedicated to that, the software is incorporated, and there's no annual fee for the software, so it's a one-stop shop in that respect. So that's one of the key factors for our solution.
Appreciate Andrew. So Etienne, anything else to add?
Andrew is doing a perfect job out there. I have nothing else to add.
You said great stuff. So let's say, Andrew, if you have a local customer, or whether it's Etienne, but let's say, Andrew, how a customer can start their project with us, for example, here.
Well, if they give us a call or contact our website for an inquiry, raruk.com, then we'll normally speak to them, ask them to send us information on the application, payload, stack height, box sizes, and then we normally engage with discussion and take it from there. I normally make a site visit if that's the case, discuss the options.
Exactly. So after the webinar, if you want to start or have an evaluation of your project, if you have these documents with the palette patterns ready-made, we can help you evaluate this for sure. So send us also, if possible, if you have any images or videos of your manual process, we'll be more than happy to go through this with you on a call with our team afterward. This was just a quick example of a video of a customer when after the robotic palletizing is deployed. Oh, sorry here. So sometimes we get asked a lot about how it works with local support. So just a quick slide to mention that we have more than 200 partners worldwide to support you on through your lean robotics process. So feel free to reach out to us wherever you're joining us today. So that will be the time for your question. I see we're already at 50 minutes, more than 50 minutes. So thanks again, Etienne, for sharing these insights. Thanks to Andrew also. I guess you would have a lot more to say. So we'll be happy to go over. So now the time for your question. So you can write the question in the chat. I'll stop sharing my screen so I can gather and have a look at your questions right here. 1 second. So I'll stop sharing my screen. So I guess you can still see us. Well, a small question here from Cohen. Thanks, Cohen, for the question. So I saw guarding at the sides and back of the palletizer. How is the front protected?
Okay, Etienne on himself.
Yeah, well, on this one, it's most of our safeguarded application will be like the one you've seen where you have an open front, because obviously you need to come in and change the pallet. So some of our customers ask for physical doors, but that's really annoying, in my opinion, not very efficient in production. So you want to have an open front, so have what you would call a virtual fence. Virtual fencing, then you have two options. It's either you have a light scanner, so it's a set of laser beams, and basically it's like a physical fence. The other option is to have a safety area scanner. So this one is also a laser beam, but the laser beam going like that, like a radar. So it has a coverage that you can configure. They have different pros and cons, so that's really the two options we have.
Just going to add one point, Elizabeth, that some customers actually they like it to be fenced on three sides because they want to protect the robot from outside influences such as forklift trucks, etc. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah, it's true. Definitely.
I understand, and the question was the same was asked by Charles Piper. So Charles, if your question isn't fully answered, feel free to ask again in the chat. Good question from Youssef here. So how are you dealing with dust particles getting inside the suction pads and into the compressed air tubing? So there's a great case study also about that we recently deployed at in Spain with the bakery. So there was a lot of challenges with the sorry, it's in la farine with the
Flour.
anyway, flour things.
Yeah.
Sorry for this one. So yeah, definitely. I don't know if you could mention in some way about the dust in that case.
Well, first the standard. I'll try to move correct side. So our project comes with a standard gripper power pick. This one is really meant to work in rough environments with dust and humidity. So the components were chosen for that, the venturi, everything, so it can support that. But we are also compatible with other grippers. So this one is made by Robotic, but like in the Ornua case study, you've seen we work with a foam gripper that was picked from a third party. So basically this one, foam technology in general, they have some sensibility to humidity, water, etc. It still works great. The only thing that changes is the maintenance interval. So your maintenance interval is coming down from like 6 months to 3 months, where you need to change the pad roughly. But pretty much every component we would choose will be done for the specific environment we'll work in. So I think quite early in the webinar, we talked about the environmental conditions. So that's why it's important to receive them from the customer so that we can choose the proper gripping solution, I'd say.
Yeah, thanks, Etienne. Good point here. And I think we have another good question from Youssef that I'll take here. So how are you verifying the current count of boxes on a pallet? Meaning, if an operator manually removes a box, how are you verifying the counts? Is there a way we can do that? Maybe Andrew.
Shall I answer, or Etienne? Etienne will fill in if I get it wrong. So
you can go.
on the software, if you have a failure, maybe if a gripper fails to pick, or as you mentioned, someone removes a box, you're going to reset the situation. So if you go into the cell, you're going to need to reset. And when you reset, the software asks what the condition of the pallet is at the moment, and it shows a picture of where the robot thinks, or the palletizing system thinks the box configuration is. So say you're on the first layer, it may have 8 boxes there. It will show 8 boxes, and then there's an option to add or subtract if it's slightly different. So it's a very user-friendly solution. It shows you a picture, and you just have to match the picture to the reality.
Yeah, I'm trying to show what you're explaining, because basically that interface will basically, well, it's tough to center on my camera, but that kind of interface would basically do what Andrew is talking about, where you would add and remove boxes to match the reality, so the system has a memory, like Andrew is explaining.
Excellent teamwork there, Etienne.
Oh yes, we're a team.
The perks of being in the lab, Etienne. Thanks a lot. So I hope it answered your question, Youssef. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out. Another good question from Matthew Lash. So is the product flexible enough to be relocated between production line, or must it be fixed in one location?
It is the latest one we designed. So this one, the P20, is meant to be moved around. So if I can show it efficiently, but you have those inserts for basically a forklift or a jig to move it around. So it was designed to be moved around with padded equipment. And then you have at the back of it, you have it's basically a removable bracket that basically stays on the ground, so anchored. So you would have, if you would have 3 lines, then you would have 3 brackets permanently fixed over there. and then you would shut down your palletizer, bolt it off, and then move it to the other line, align it on that bracket, and then fix it again, power it up, and then you could resume your operations. So it's meant to be moved. It was a recurring request from our customers, so we the latest design is meant like that for that.
Mm-hmm. So thanks for that question. We have it a lot, although I would think that it could be more effective not to move it, but if you have to, then it's possible to do so. I hope, Matthew, it answered your question well. So good question, Alejandro. Thank you for gracias por estar. I know Alejandro is been joining a lot of webinar lately. Thanks for being on board and keep asking the good questions. It's an important one that he's bringing here. So he says, I'm aware with all the benefits of Cobot. However, in Latin America, due to low labor costs, it's very difficult to sell projects inside the organization. We know that you might see the need of automation, but how can you convince the rest of your team that it's going to have an important payback? So which was the ROI of this project, or how do you help your customer internally to justify the ROI of the solutions? Maybe Andrew, you wanna start with that, since you've been deploying a lot of solution lately.
I would say that whilst people will need production rates and there's the labour cost that you can make savings on by redeploying them, in many cases we find that customers are actually more keen on the ergonomics, the safety aspects. As I said before, lifting 10-kilogram boxes all day is not great. If it leads to sickness for people being off work with maybe back injuries, etc., that's not efficient for any organisation if their labour is not available because they're off sick. So it's not just the cost benefit, and so I think there's more than one aspect to it really that needs to be considered.
Mm-hmm. And maybe the number of shifts. I don't know if you, Alejandro, in your case, you have night shifts or evening shifts, but that's also something that you can improve and increase with the Cobot palletizer. And also, Andrew, you kind of talked about it already, but the turnover. So the fact of training all the time the people on the pallet patterns, on the new SKUs every time, so you can save a lot of time on that too.
Yeah, the robots could be consistent every time.
Exactly. There are some
Maybe
other
to add on that, I would say in the low wage countries, sometimes we had to look, instead of doing the ROI with the wage cost, we did the ROI with the production stop cost. So sometimes you need to consider, it's more about how much money you're losing if you're not producing than how much money you're saving with the wage. So if your production line produce, I don't know, $1,000 an hour, then every hour you're losing in production because staff doesn't show up or staff is not efficient or whatever. This is actually how you would do the ROI. And also some other ROI I've seen are calculated with the cost of ergonomic injuries. This one is, I'm less familiar with it, but I know there are some maths to do with, like, for example, the insurance cost that the company can get if an employee is injured. So basically the wage is one aspect, but there's many other aspects to look at. That'd be my advice.
Great. So I hope, Alejandro, it helped you a little bit. Feel free to reach out again to Romy or the team so we can help you and support you on building the project. I would have one last question from Peter van Davelaar. I think, Peter, you have a lot of projects going on with your the elements you've mentioned in the questions, but Peter asked about machine tending, if it's still possible to automate machine tending with robotique and the robot, universal robot. So I think it's an easy question that I can say yes, but if you want to add a word, I don't know, Etienne, or is it compatible, for example, with the UR20?
Yeah, so we're rolling back our project compatibility, rolling back to have pretty much everything compatible on the UR20. And yes, the machine tending, it's ongoing. So today we're really focusing on palletizing, but we have three application projects at Robotique: the palletizing, machine tending, and screw driving. Personally, I think the machine tending has a huge potential. we launched, so basically we launched grippers that are meant for machine tending a couple of years ago, Indie gripper. Then my memory is getting vague about that, but we did the machine tending kit something like 4 years ago, Andrew.
I thought a little bit less than that. I think we came out to see you in Barcelona a couple of years ago. So
yeah, and then we did the machine tending solution that we launched more recently that allows machine communication. And of course, we're still developing in that direction as of today. So it's still a focus for us and still available.
Another scoop here, but it was going to be even more advanced in terms of machine tending due to the new stack light detector that we're about to launch. So Andrew will have the discussion soon, but definitely some good improvements to follow within all our production line. And I would have one last, so thank you, Peter. Yes, thanks. Peter says thank you regarding the question. I would have one last question from Mark. So can you give some advice about the pallet patterns? So do you now have the expertise to help people and teaching us on the pallet patterns, or how we could optimize our pallets?
Yourself, Etienne?
Yeah, well, all right. Well, it depends really on the situation, but it's what's happening in our day-to-day is that sometimes we give advice to the customers so that they adjust the pallet pattern to increase speed, for example. I think earlier in the webinar, Andrew, you mentioned the mill pick. So mill pick is when we can pick many boxes at a time and place them. And sometimes to get the most out of this feature, we will ask the customers to rework their pattern. So for example, if we can pick 4 boxes at a time, then we would ask them, yeah, well, can you make your pattern a set of rows of 4 so that we can always pick 4 and then place 4, and then we're getting with that kind of thing, I've seen throughput at 30, 40, 50 boxes a minute. So that's something that's common for us to give advice, but most of the time it's oriented towards like making the most out of the palletizing solution. So if you want to have advice on how to do efficient transportation, then that's not our business. But to get most out of the Cobot, yes, we can help you.
I'll just add to that then. I was going to say with the multi-pick function, so if you're picking 2s, but you've got your pallet is 5x7, we can still pick singles as well to make your pattern up.
Yes.
But obviously it's not as efficient when you're picking a single. We also showed on the video that you may have noticed that there was label orientation. That's an option. So we can always make the labels go to the outside of the pallet, which is often required. So it's just a couple of extra bits I just came in my head as we're talking.
Important ones. Yeah.
That's a good point. You just gotta keep in mind, that all these elements, you need these experts just like Andrew and Etienne to help you going through this, and on your side just focusing on having pallets, having box being palletized or products being palletized and finding your turnkey solution. So I appreciate all your time. So I see a lot of people still on the line, so we really appreciate staying with us until the end of the webinar. So I want to thank you, Etienne, for all the insight. Thank you, Andrew, for all your also personal insights on that. So let's keep the conversation going. I hope I see one more question. Oh, it's just thanks for the interesting webinar. So thank you, Peter. Thanks to all the people on the line. So we'll reach out to you. We'll send you the recording if you missed it or if you want to share with your team. We'll share with you the simulation tool if you want to use it, and also the link if you need to reach out to either Andrew, Etienne, or if you want to speak with our team to start your automation project. So I wish you a great end of day and afternoon in Europe, and beginning maybe of the morning in America. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Have
Andrew.
a great day.